Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Up till now in our deep learning playlist, we have learned about neurons, activation functions, forward propagation and even back propagation. And these are all the core ingredients of making a neural network. So essentially at this point, we should ask this important question that how do we build a good neural network, a good deep learning model, and how do we train it effectively? And what shall we do if things don't go as planned? Maybe you have noticed that your model performs really well on training data. But as soon as you give it new unseen data, it starts acting weird and does not deliver the right results. So what is the cause for this? These issues are exactly what we'll tackle today. Underfitting, overfitting, and the crucial bias variance trade-off. We will also understand how a smart trick called regularization will help our models become consistent, robust, and ready for the real world. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Let us first talk about overfitting using a visual example to clearly understand what's happening. So let's take a closer look at the image on the screen. On the left hand side, we have a graph that separates two different classes of data points, that is circles and crosses. And it does this with a simple straight line. But notice how this simple boundary is not able to fully capture the complexity of the data. And so you can see that some data points are misclassified. Now on the right hand side, we see an extremely different scenario. Over here, there is a very complex decision boundary between the two classes of x's and zeros. And even the points that are noise or outliers have been classified properly. And while this looks good initially, there is a very big problem. And that is that this model has been specialized to this data set itself. And this is exactly what we call overfitting. An overfitted model is too sensitive to the minor fluctuations in the training data, which causes it to perform poorly on new unseen data. Let us look at another very common and useful way of identifying overfitting, and that is by examining the training and validation loss during the training process. Here, training loss means the measures of a model while training on the data set or the training data set. And validation loss is the loss that is generated in the model with the data set that it hasn't seen before, or the testing or validation data set. In this graph, the blue line means the loss on the training data, and the red line indicates the loss on the validation data. And notice how at the beginning, both of these lines are going down, or the loss is reducing, which is excellent. This means that our model is fitting the training data really well, but it is not fitting the validation data set. Now you must be thinking, why does the validation loss start decreasing and then increasing only after a certain point? Well, let's explore this even more deeply. Initially, when the training begins, your neural network starts by learning broad patterns from the training data. Both your validation loss and training loss reduce initially because your model is genuinely trying to learn some useful features. These can be general patterns, relationships, and meaningful insights from the data. However, as training continues, the model starts looking into very specific key features beyond a certain point of training. It tries to classify every single training example, even the very specific and minute ones that don't hold very much importance in the basic general trend of the data. This causes your training loss to go lower and lower because the model then learns and memorizes every single training data point. But here is the problem. The validation data set, which is new and unseen, won't have the same noise and impurities like your training data set. So beyond that crucial point on the graph, your model essentially switches from learning mode to memorizing mode. The more it memorizes training data, the worse it becomes in classifying and identifying the new unseen data. And that is why beyond a certain point, the training loss and validation loss are different. training still goes down and validation loss goes up, leading to underfitting. Now that we have seen what overfitting looks like, let us take a step back and understand what the opposite problem is. Underfitting happens when your model is too simple to capture the actual structure of the data. It fails to learn enough during training, which leads to a high error in the training dataset as well as the validation dataset. Let us take a look at this graph. Here we are plotting the model complexity on the x-axis and error on the y-axis. You will notice that when the model complexity is low or when the model is very simple, both training errors and test errors are very high, and this region is highlighted as underfitting. Think of it using this analogy. Imagine you are preparing for an exam tomorrow, but you only go through the titles of the chapters. So the next day, even if the questions are slightly difficult, you won't be able to answer them. Not because you didn't try, but because you didn't learn enough. The goal is to find that sweet spot in the middle, wherein the model is not too simple and not too complex. And it is just complex enough to help the model perform best on the training dataset as well as the testing dataset. And that, by the way, is what leads us to the idea of the bias-variance trade-off. For this, let me first tell you what bias and variance mean. So bias refers to the error that is caused by overly simple models that make very strong assumptions. So this essentially refers to underfitting. Variance is the error caused by models that are too sensitive to the training data, and this eventually leads to overfitting. This visual on the screen is my absolute favorite for understanding the bias-variance trade-off. Imagine you're playing a game of darts and the red center is your goal, just like a target in your machine learning model. Let us walk through each of the 4 quadrants and relate them with how our model performs. In the top left quadrant is what we want, that is a low bias and a low variance. All of the darts are closely clustered in the center of the bullseye. That means our model is accurate and consistent. It has learned the correct patterns and it generalizes very well. On the top right, the darts are spread out, but they are mostly centered around the bullseye. It means that our model has a low bias. It knows where to aim, but it is inconsistent. So every single time it gives slightly different results. This is also called high variance, and it is very common in complex models that are very sensitive to the training data. Down there on the bottom left, the darts are tightly, closely knit, but they are far away from the bullseye. This is a situation of high bias and low variance. The model is too simple and it cannot understand what the data is trying to tell to it, and so it consistently gives wrong results. This is a classic case of underfitting. And finally, the bottom right. This is the worst case. The darts are all over the place and not even close to bullseye. This is a situation of high bias and high variance, where our model is trained wrong and is completely unstable. So now you must know that what we really want is the top left quadrant, that is low bias and low variance, where our model is consistent as well as accurate. Now that we have built the intuition, let's connect the dots and understand what is happening mathematically behind the scenes. This graph on the screen shows us the model complexity and the different kinds of errors that make up the model's performance. First, look at the blue curve, which is bias squared. When our model is too simple, it cannot understand or capture the complexities in the data. So it makes large errors due to incorrect assumptions, and that is the case of high bias. But as we increase the model complexity, bias goes down because we can better fit the complexities in our data. Now look at the red curve. This represents our variance. At low complexity, the variance is low because the training data is very simple, and so it doesn't change much across every different training data set. But as we make our data more complex, it becomes more specific to the different training data sets, and hence the variance then increases with the complexity. Finally, we combine both to get the total error, which is the U-shaped black color line on this graph. Right in the middle, where the model is just complex enough, is the sweet spot we are looking for. This is where the total model error is minimized, and we call it the optimal model complexity. To help reach this balance in the bias variance trade-off, we have this excellent tool with us called regularization. So let's get into it. It helps us control overfitting without having to manually simplify the model. At a high level, regularization works by penalizing extreme model behavior, especially when the model tries too hard to fit the training data, by using overly large weights or by using overly complex decision boundaries. By adding a small penalty to the loss function, it encourages the model to stay simple and more generalizable. Now, the standard loss only measures the prediction error. If this is the only term that we are minimizing, then the model will freely increase or decrease the weights in the best possible way that will reduce the error. But this could lead to the weights growing very large, and this essentially leads to overfitting. So basically, the model could identify that because of a couple of inputs or weights, the error is getting reduced very highly. And so every single time it would just increase the value of these weights. But that way, the model will become sensitive to only some kind of input data and eventually lead to overfitting. And that is not what we want. To control this, we add a penalty to the loss function that discourages large weights. Here on the screen, we have L2 regularization, where lambda, which is greater than 0, is a hyperparameter, and it controls the regularization strength. And the square of the weights is the L2 norm squared of the weight vector. This added term grows larger as any individual weight becomes large. Now let us look at the update step in gradient descent. Here, the 2 times lambda into w term effectively dampens the weight at every step. This is why L2 regularization is also called as weight decay. This second term acts like a strong force that is pulling the weight back towards 0. It is proportional to the current value of the weight. So the weights shrink because at every step we subtract a small term that is proportional to the weight itself. This essentially discourages large weights and helps the model remain not so sensitive to the training data. Another type of regularization is L1 regularization that uses the absolute value of the weights instead of the squared term. So that was all about how you can train your model effectively after creating a deep neural network. And that was all for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and got to learn something new this week. And if you did, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I'll be back next week with another exciting video. Till then, thank you for watching and see you again.